In order to make sure that there are some sort of stakes involved and that players can't just keep going through them with no consequence, most video games have some sort of way of keeping track of the player character's health, which, unless you're incredibly good, will deplete and fluctuate as play progresses. This means that titles also have to work out some sort of way to restore the player's health, at least if they have any hope of retaining their audience long enough that they're able to make it to the end. No game is going to ever be fully accurate with how it portrays healing, as it would be a real pain to watch the protagonist sat in a hospital for 2 months, so every option is going to be a bit weird compared to healthcare in real life. However, for this list, we're looking at the options that are weirder than most. Some are merely questionable, while a few would be guaranteed to make you sicker than you were in the first place if they were used in real life, so please don't try these remedies at home, okay? I'm Ben from TripleJump, and here are the 10 weirdest health items in video games. Number 10. Cup noodles. Earthbound. Plenty of games use food as a source of healing for their protagonists, and these items can seemingly heal almost anything from minor scrapes to bullet wounds, but just because they're commonplace doesn't mean it isn't a bit strange that they have an incredible level of medicinal power. One of the titles that has a variety of foodstuffs that can be consumed for a whole slew of benefits is Earthbound, which has items that range from a fairly basic banana all the way up to a mammoth burger and kraken soup, but one of the best in the game is a simple bowl of instant noodles. This particular health item, more correctly called the Cup of Life noodles, is no ordinary student meal, as it's able to take care of almost any of the party members' status ailments ranging from poison and nausea to paralysis, uncontrollable crying, and even strangeness, as well as several others besides. That's not even the most extraordinary use for this especially powerful bowl of cheap ramen though, as it can also be used to revive any incapacitated party member, and not only that, but it will resurrect them with full HP, making it one of the strongest healing items in the game. If only my chicken and mushroom pot noodle could do all of that. Number 9. Genie Juice. Disney's Aladdin in Nasira's Revenge. Food may be a common healing item in games, but perhaps even more common are things that the player can drink to restore themselves, such as potions or health tonics. One that doesn't really turn up all that often though is plain old juice, but that's what awkwardly titled PlayStation game Disney's Aladdin in Nasira's Revenge opted for. Over the course of the game, Aladdin will have to fight his way past a whole bunch of palace guards, animals, and bosses in order to save Agrabah, and as he progresses there will be loads of things for him to collect. Most of these collectibles are just that, collectibles that will unlock minigames at the end of the level. But occasionally, Aladdin will pick up what looks like a juice box, and these are what the game calls Genie Juice. There are 2 different varieties of this, the first providing a minor boost and the second, larger kind, fully restoring the player's health. The real question though is why exactly is it called Genie Juice? Surely it isn't made of genies, right? Or does it come from genies? What a horrible thought. Regardless, it doesn't sound like the most appetizing of drinks, let alone one that would be at all healthy for you. Probably full of E numbers. Number 8. Shemp's Cola. Evil Dead the Game. We're moving on from sipping some juice to recuperate and looking at something that has even fewer health benefits thanks to its sugary nature. Cola. Specifically, Shemp's Cola, the sole healing item in asymmetric horror experience Evil Dead the Game. As with many other titles in the genre, players are able to collect and store numerous items throughout their game that will help them and their teammates on their journey, which often takes the form of defensive items such as extra ammo or shield-providing amulets, or even the critical map pieces that have to be collected to further the survivor's mission. However, players will also occasionally come across these health-restoring cans of fizzy drink and can either guzzle down the concoctions in order to replenish their own health or drop them for their teammates to collect and use themselves. Soda may be a tasty treat to sip on, but I'm not convinced that there could be any health benefits to ingesting that much sugar. To be perfectly fair though, it's probably better for you than drinking the Shemp's beer it's based off. That one is guaranteed to do the exact opposite of improve your health, to be honest. Number 7. Floor Chicken. Vampire Survivors. Chicken appearing from strange places for ailing protagonists to chow down on is, strangely, one of the oldest methods of healing in video games, with unappealingly named suspect poultry meals popping up as early as Streets of Rage and Castlevania. It hasn't stopped there, however, and this tradition of using food from a bin or other equally unsanitary places has continued to this day. One of the most recent examples of this staple food is the floor chickens, and yes, they are literally called that in Vampire Survivors. As they play through each of the levels of this roguelike, players will inevitably lose some health to the enormous swarms of enemies around them. especially if they haven't been lucky with weapons, and so they'll have to start hunting for some health. In order to nab one of these meals, they'll need to destroy items in the environment and hope that the randomly spawned loot is in fact a flawed chicken, which is all down to what their luck stat is at the time, until they're a high enough level where they can choose it at every level up screen if they like. I don't know if it's weirder that this foul actually works, or that the character is able to eat the entire thing in a matter of seconds. Either way, it's surprisingly effective. Number 6. Dog food. Wolfenstein 3D. Wolfenstein 3D may have helped to establish first-person shooters as a genre and may still to this day be regarded as one of the best games of all time, but that doesn't mean that it doesn't have some things in it that are a little bit weird, and that includes some of the items players can pick up. This game is a bit different from the others we've seen so far because there are actually plenty of different health items that are available to use, and most of them aren't all that weird. There is some floor food, which is nothing new, as well as different levels of health kit. If all that fails you though, feel free to pick up one of the many dog food bowls dotted around any of the levels featuring the furious weaponized canines. This is something that persisted well into the newer games too, with even Wolfenstein: The New Order leaving bowls full of kibble around for players to chow down on if they're feeling a bit under the weather. I suppose it is technically edible, even if it would taste extremely unpleasant, but I feel like eating dog food after a firefight would only serve to make me feel a bit worse, really. Number 5. Coins. Super Mario 64. One of the most iconic staples of Mario games are the coins that dot the landscape throughout all of the titles. These shiny bits of cash are used in different ways every time they appear, sometimes increasing the player's score and other times allowing them to buy items, but in Super Mario 64 they can be used to heal the mustachioed hero. But surely when you say that, you mean that they're used to purchase health items somehow, like in so many other games, you may be saying to yourself. Well, that's where you're wrong, because Mario doesn't have to do anything with these coins in order to gain his health back other than collect them. This weird healing property is also present in Super Mario Sunshine and Super Mario Galaxy, and I suppose if we're being technical and go back far enough, collecting coins has always allowed players to gain an extra life. I'm not really sure about the logistics in this particular case though, because surely Mario is neither swallowing the money nor somehow merging with it to heal his wounds, because there's no indication of that and it really wouldn't make any sort of sense anyway. What exactly are you doing with those coins, Mario? Number 4. Toilet water. Fallout 3. Water is a great commodity, and it is generally considered true that drinking a certain amount every day is vital to your health. Some sources of H2O are definitely better for you than others though, and I think we can all agree that toilet water is not high up on the healthy scale. You have to do what you have to do in the face of an apocalypse, however, which is why the player-created protagonist of Fallout 3 has to use whatever they can find in the grim wasteland in order to help them survive, even as full of rads as those fancy lad snack cakes they're cramming into their gob may be. Sometimes, if nothing else is around, this means that they'll have to settle for some water out of a destroyed, decades-old toilet bowl if they don't want to succumb to dehydration. Honestly, I don't know which would be worse for you. Typical toilet water, or the inevitably irradiated kind that can only be found in the Fallout universe. And Chernobyl. Considering this particular option likely has both types of contaminants though, it's probably one of the least healthy options you could possibly go for. Also, as everything is full of radiation, why anyone would literally stoop to the level of drinking from a toilet is a mystery when they may as well eat a rad roach. But hey, desperate times I suppose. Yuck. Number 3. Rat Skewer. Dishonored. The world of Dishonored can be quite a dark and oppressive place with its overly enthusiastic policing, corrupt politicians, and highly contagious communicable diseases. Sounds horrible. Can you imagine? In such a bleak world, it's understandable that people will be forced into unpleasant situations and will have to do whatever they're able to in order to survive, and in this case, that includes eating rats on a stick. These rat skewers are scattered all over the place, often found roasting away over abandoned fires, ready and waiting for Corvo to come along and pick them up for a quick health boost. Now, rat may not be something that we typically think of eating, but they do have a bit of meat, so it's not out of the question that they could be a food source. However, given that a key part of the lore is that there is a massive rat plague going on in the city of Dunwall at the same time that the game is taking place, eating the rats responsible for said plague is one of the worst ideas you could have. Except maybe drinking the bull rat liquor found in Death of the Outsider. That one's probably worse if we're honest. Number 2. Health Pipe. Postal 2. We're going to say something potentially controversial here. Postal 2 is an unpleasant game, with the majority of its content being more offensive than it is fun. However, it also happens to have one of the unhealthiest health items that have ever been included in video games, the so-called Health Pipe. This euphemistically named item, which is a thinly veiled reference to a certain pipe used for drugs, is sold throughout the game at any place with a "Health Pipes for Sale" sign in front of it and can also be picked up in various places throughout the world. It's also the best healing item the game has to offer. To a point. By that, I mean that it is the item that will heal the most HP, automatically resetting the protagonist's hit points to a sizable 125. Unfortunately though, the negative effects of smoking will kick in after roughly 7 minutes, meaning health will suddenly drop by 25% thanks to the heart attack the resulting withdrawal gives to the postal dude. In order to counteract this, players only have to take another hit of a health pipe before the effects are triggered, but really, is it worth it? I mean, living longer would mean you'd have to keep playing Postal 2 for a start. Hardly seems worth it. Number 1. Maggots. Mad Max. Another apocalypse, another questionable diet now as we turn to 2015's Mad Max, the game one, not the movie one, and its post-apocalyptic wasteland. As with Fallout previously, the titular Max will have to take whatever he can get in terms of food and health items, using everything from the water in his canteen, assuming he's got any, to rats and lizards, and, again, even dog food, if there aren't any tins of the stuff handy. By far the strangest and easily the grossest, though, are the maggots that reside on the many, many corpses that can be found scattered across the desert. Maggots can, and have actually been used in real-life healthcare for some time, which is something that we are absolutely not going to get into here because it is quite stomach-turning. So, in theory, it isn't the worst option for certain injuries, even if I would not be at all interested in seeing it. In practice, though, it's horrible, actually. This is because Max isn't using the disgusting wiggly grubs to take care of any external wounds and then removing them once they've done their job. No, instead he grabs huge fistfuls of the things and shoves them into his mouth. Right, after all that, looks like it's lunchtime. Who's hungry? Where did everybody go?